Hi, this is Ishia Lin with womenstent.org, and I'm here to talk about alchemy and how to have more confidence and self-worth. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my women's program, my women's sacred healing dance program that has been amazing. And we're on Alchemy Week. And alchemy is this, the alchemical process is this weaving, this transformation of two things into wholeness, into one. And this is one of my paintings. And the creative process, dance and painting, and just this creative process of spirit entering the psyche, entering form, has been my life path and has really helped me to heal deeply and heal shame and find confidence and bring beautiful art to the world and bring my gifts and really help people in beautiful ways. And that's very satisfying to me. And I want to help you share just some simple tips around how to find this alchemical process in yourself. How do you find this sense of confidence, the sense of self-worth? And I know sometimes it's just like, it feels like it's unreachable. It's like everybody else can find this. How do I get it? And I've been there. So today I want to talk to you about this because we've been finding some wonderful epiphanies in the program. And it's a wonderful program. It's called Womb Dance, Women Opening Through Movement and Breath. For women right now, but it works with the pelvic floor. It's called Sacred Power. It's a 6-week program. It's online. We do live videos, and we work with an archetype and some different dance maps that I create with different movement and movement patterns from different global dances that I've studied. And for me, I feel like dance is really one of the main pieces that creates that alchemical process that we're all searching for, that sense of inner power and that sense of that the sacredness of life, that there's something more than just this physical. What is the deeper meaning of living? And I do believe that dance helps us to find that relationship with the unseen energetic worlds, whether it's religious for you or simply working with the invisible energies of light. I'm not attached to what religion or spiritual practice you do, but I'm pretty clear there is a spiritual dimension of reality, and I do believe that the religion aspect of it is your choice. You can choose what you believe and how you want to work with it. But if we ignore it on some level, we start to feel like there's something core missing from our life. And that's when shame and our experiences of life, which especially as women, we can run up against some really horrible experiences. And it could take a lot of time to heal. But the more we have a foundational base of our spiritual reference point, the more we can heal, the faster we can heal. And afterwards, if we feel disconnected and disjointed from our spiritual vantage point, that is a tool that we can work toward implementing back into our lives in order to find a healing process. So, alchemy of confidence and self-worth. Where does confidence and self-worth come from if you're experiencing not having it? I've experienced not having it, and I've experienced having it. And I don't feel like it's something that you just have or don't have. I think that most of us experience the wobble, the back and forth. And I think that's because most of us experience some form of disconnect from our root chakra, from the base of our body, from the pelvic center. I am a pelvic floor specialist, and I work with women and men's healing of the pelvic floor. So we work with movement and practices, meditation, practices to help you reconnect with the root. And I do consults online, which we can do a lot of practices and a lot of somatic and shamanic practices. So these paintings are so important to me because they start to capture the energy essence of what supports us. And my doggy friend is here, and she's also, this incredible, intelligent being. So learning to work with the intelligence of the unseen world, of the animal spirits in our lives for the deeper teachings. And what the earth and the animals teach us is there is an instinctual way to inhabit our pelvic floor, that when that gets interrupted by modern culture, by modern births, by trauma, anything that lifts us up and out of our core or numbs us from the waist down, is going to start to create these issues with confidence, with self-worth, with being able to see and feel ourselves from a spiritual perspective, and also feeling safe in the body. So what happens is the energy field, the soul, if you will, migrates from the pelvis upward. And so we're not rooted. We don't have a sense of home in our body. So when you hear a lot of dancers and ecstatic dance practices and yoga practices talk about embodiment, this is what they're talking about, is like bringing our consciousness, our soul awareness, our soul essence into the body. And the error of a lot of the spiritual practices that's confusing is there is a sense of bliss, there is a sense of expansion. But if we're expanded from the soul essence lifting up and out of the body, out of the crown, and experiencing that energy that's moving outside of the body, then we're not at home. So ultimately, since we're on earth and we've chose to come here to be in a body and have a human experience in a body, we want to get in the body to have the experience. So the spiritual practice is the unification, the alchemy of body and spirit. And so that takes inviting, seducing the soul back into the root, and then expanding the body consciousness and the soul energy essence, the auric field, out from there. So you can see it's taking your seat in your pelvis and widening the field from there, or rising up and out. And you can kind of feel, can you feel the difference? So if you're up and out, then you don't have a sense of your humanity. It's confusing. It's hard to have healthy boundaries. It's hard to understand self-worth, because there is no worth or self in these cosmic realms. There is no ego, there's no individual self. So it can be confusing. And so if you have these conversations when you're expanded up out here, the idea of self-worth can be a sense of, what would I say? It's a sense of how we sense it in this realm is it's like insecurity. It's a lack of confidence, and it's because we're not rooted in our pelvis, which means the womb, the pelvis center is rooted into earth to anchor us here on earth, and then it supports the upper chakras, which is the womb or the sacral chakra, and then the solar plexus, our personal power. Now, if the personal power isn't resting, relaxed in the pelvis, in the creative womb center, sacral center, then the solar plexus can feel a bit wobbly and unsure of itself, because it doesn't have rooting. It doesn't have a stable foundation. So if you think about a baby, when we hold a baby when it first comes to earth, we're holding the baby and we're making it feel secure. So then when it's exploring the world, it understands safety. It understands how it receives its benefit, its healing, its stable life force, its feeding. And we are like babies in the universe, and we need to root into these bodies in order to feel that this separate self is an anchoring, and in anchoring into the separate body, there is this interconnection with the web of life. So we've come into universal consciousness, into a separate body, but in order to experience the web of life, the interconnectivity, we need to anchor into the body to feel the interconnection. So when we start to separate and create that sense of isolation and loneliness and being a separate self, that's when we get into issues here. That's when we start to feel nervous and distrustful of being in a body, because it doesn't make sense to be in a separate body unless we feel the spiritual wholeness, the spiritual oneness, and the web with the web of life. But we can only feel that when we're inside and rooted in the body, so the mechanism of the body can extend and feel outward. When we're half in and half out, we can't use the full mechanism of our body to tap into the web of life. We're half in the spirit world and half in our body, so we're not fully accessing the way of spirit, and we're not fully accessing how a body can interconnect with spirit. So this is why embodiment is so important. This is why reclaiming dance as a sacred art, as a healing art, is so important right now on earth, because we have so many people living half in and half out of the body and living in this separate armored state in the body, disconnected from the web of life. So from a shamanic standpoint, this is a real problem. So in the shamanism, we leave and come back in, and it's a process. It's a process. So we live in the visionary and dream state, but then we come back in to live it. And in shamanic practices, we're very connected to the root and the sensual experience of life, of food and sensuality and earth-centeredness. And you need that in shamanic practice, because it's a weaving of the worlds. But the weaving of the worlds needs to happen with going out and coming back in. And that coming back in needs to come all the way in to the root, because then the root communicates with earth. And that's what creates an anchoring here, just like a tree. A tree can feel like such a great teacher, because it teaches us this. And then when we leave our bodies in death and have communion with God Force, with what our afterlife we are choosing in our religious and spiritual practices, then we leave the body behind. But for now, when we are in the body, this is a sacred temple. This is where that alchemical process of body and spirit meet to have a human life. And the dance helps us to really inhabit these bodies. And when we're inhabiting them, again, we can start to claim our life, claim our worth, and feel confident in who we are. And there's a journey through that. But when we're fully in and we're fully understanding and knowing ourselves, that sense of self-esteem that comes from truly knowing ourselves, that comes from that alchemy of spirit and knowing our soul path, the clarity in that, the resting into the body, along with that clarity, helps us to be stable ground for whatever comes at us. So if that means someone decides to shame us or ridicule us, it might hurt our feelings for a moment, but it doesn't destabilize us. And what I have been so enjoying, being embodied, is it's very difficult to be shamed at that point, because you feel your sense of belonging, you feel your sense of interconnectivity and safety in the guidance of spiritual support. So shame comes from when we're very young, and we are told, we're doing something wrong, but we're made wrong on top of that. Shh, I'll be right there, love. My doggy's crying. So if we are feeling that our behavior has been made wrong, and that is threatening a sense of belonging, a sense of feeling lovable, then that starts to root into our being as it's unsafe. It's frightening. And so anytime that shame gets triggered again, then we kind of pull up and out. And because it doesn't feel safe to be here, it's very unsettling and scary for a young being to be in a body when it doesn't feel like it's lovable, when there's a sense of belonging to the tribe. So they will rise up into the other chakras and rise up and try to find where to make the connection. If they can't rest easy here, the energy field starts to rise and try to make its way back to spirit. And of course, this is subconscious. We don't know we're doing this. But as we get older and we're living our lives and we're wondering, why am I so insecure? Why do I have such a hard time with self-worth? What's happening? So we've been having such a wonderful, amazing practice with helping people, men and women at this point, return to their root, doing exercises to reestablish the strength in the root and draw the alchemical process of the spirit, the soul, back home to the seat of the soul, at the root center. And working with the practices of sacred dance methods, which is geometry and alignment, along with ecstatic and free form, which I believe both are very important. So this is not about dance is for dancers. This is about dance is for everybody, and it's an amazing medicine for all of us. So in my videos, I don't show myself that much dancing all the time because I want to guide you and support you in finding movement medicine in your life. And what I have found, as much as I love to perform and dance, is that in the past, some of my dance videos have been intimidating for people and given the message that is like, watch me dance. But the message I want to bring is that you need dance in your life. Every human being needs movement in order to create this alchemy, in order to create this way in which the body thrives in movement and working with the lymph and the blood. It needs movement, and the way the soul works with resting into the body, and this alchemy that happens with this opening the mind past logic into this spiritual guidance.